All right, welcome back to Com 225. And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and it's presentation aids. I love making PowerPoints. I've been learning how to use Canva. I think I'm getting a little good at it. And I just love making visuals that I can share with my students and that I can just have fun with learning new ways. And so this lecture, we're going to be looking at two different chapters, not related to the book, so you don't have any readings right now. But this first chapter looks at speaking with presentation aids. I like to take a moment and look at this beautifulness of the lava. Alrighty, so let's think about speaking with presentation aids. And so presentation aids, this is going to look like, your PowerPoints that you're going to use, just trying to help your listeners understand and then retain your information. When I think about class, I like to look at something. I don't want to just be staring at the presenter or my teacher all the time. And then I can go back and look at the slides to help me remember the information. Now, research, it does confirm that most people, they're going to process best the information when it's verbally said to me, but then also when I'm reading it in words or looking at a graphic of it. We need both. I know that sometimes I've had textbooks that don't have any visuals, and that gets boring really fast. So we like pictures, we like the kind of graphics that we can look at. Now, this is called the multimedia effect. We like it. This is a learning principle that looks at how, it says here we learn better from words and pictures than just words alone. I think it's pretty interesting to think that research has looked into this and has pointed out when we need both. So let's move on to selecting an appropriate aid. Oops, too fast. I'm sorry. So this is what the first half of this lecture is going to look like, choosing the appropriate presentation aid. Now, it could be an object, a model, a picture, graphs, charts, tables. And so we have all of these different ways to help us with our presentations, to help us when we're verbally talking to someone. Now, the first ones we're going to get into is props and models. And a prop can be an object, inanimate, or even alive. So I think about like at the zoo when people are showing off animals, that it's going to help demonstrate your speaker's point of views or your perspectives. We need to kind of like look at something. I like to think about how much I enjoy cooking shows. I love watching the Food Network. I love watching people make food. And I think to myself, they're using props. They're using the food, they're using the knives to show me how to do things. I like to think that a lot of my cooking skills have been based off of watching those shows because it's like, oh, I learned how to do something. And with those props, that's what makes it informative. That's what makes it helpful. And we also have a model, which is a three-dimensional scale size representation of an object. So I think about if you're going to buy a house, if you're looking at apartments and they have a smaller version of it, this is a good example. You can try to think about other ways that we use props and models to help us make our points, but I think this one we use pretty often and we don't even think about it. Now, pictures. This is going to be our main way of using presentation aids in this class. We need to include pictures, which can be photographs, line drawings, maps, anything, just to help your audience kind of visualize what it is you're talking about. They're nice to look at. So I look at this picture and I think it doesn't have that big of a purpose. It's colorful windows, but it's just kind of nice to look at. It does kind of help with your eyes just looking at something. But I do want to say that if you have, and you're going to see the same information, this picture now, thinking, okay, now I'm hungry. Now I'm just staring at that cheese. I'm not even talking to you about hamburgers. And so it's like, what's the relation here? So when you're choosing a picture, make sure that it has some sort of relation to what it is you're talking about. Make sure it's kind of relevant and that it has a reason for being there because if we're staring at this picture, our minds are going to start wandering. And so that can be a negative attribute. We want to make sure that we keep you focused and engaged with whatever it is that we're talking about. Enjoy looking at the photo for a second. Let's move on. So we have graphs, charts, and tables. I think these are great ways for you to incorporate your credible sources, those statistics, and then showing us in a pie graph in, just some type of chart or a table where we can visually see your numbers and what's going on here. You can use a graph using a representation of relationships between two or more things, a chart kind of like compacting that information. A table can help you group a lot of data. And also a flow chart. This is great for when you're describing models and what things should look like. So you can definitely have fun here. Make your own graphs, charts, all of that within like PowerPoint or Google Slides. And it's just a fun way to kind of just increase your use of whatever program that you're using. This is something that a lot of students use for this class. It's audio, video, and even multimedia tips. And so we love to include videos. We love to include some audio. You want to make sure that when you do have audio or video, it's at the appropriate segment. You want to keep it short, 30 to 60 seconds. You don't want it to just be the entire speech for you. So it's nice to kind of explore ways for YouTube videos to start at a specific time when you click on it. And so using these clips to support your main argument, your main points, but they shouldn't be your main points. You can definitely embed your video clips into your PowerPoints or your presentation aids, and that's a lot of fun ways to kind of insert it. I can help you with that if you have any issues with that. And I think it's good to let your audience know, hey, I want to show a video. This is what that video is kind of about, and then play it. Don't just start showing the video and then your audience is kind of like, what's going on here? Alrighty, so here's some final tips, and then we're going to get into designing presentation aids. So practicing, you're going to hear me say this word all semester long. Practicing is so important. And when we practice with our aids, it's going to make us feel more comfortable knowing what's on each slide. You want to talk to your audience looking at your camera, trying to maintain that eye contact, but then also avoid just staring at your presentation aid. Avoid staring at your notes. You want to make sure that the aid is visual to everybody. And then you want to display the correct slide at the correct moment. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves and I start talking about, the next thing when I'm actually not there yet, right? In this example. So be sure to finish all the information up properly before you move on. Now, there's going to be problems. Technology, it's not always our friend, but we got to be sure to give our speech with or without our aid. Even if you've practiced with it, hopefully we can kind of push through and it can still work out. I hope you can think of any other tips or advice that I would love to know, but just be sure to practice. Just be sure to give yourself a shot to present well with your presentation aid. So let's talk about designing. I think this one's a little bit more fun and it's like choosing the templates, it's choosing the colors, all of that matters. So I'd like to start with this question for the second half and think about what are some favorite things that I've seen in presentation aids, and then also what are some least favorite things? Something that is a least favorite thing for me are transitions. And it's when the words are coming up on the screen all fast. It's just a little distracting. But some of my favorite things that I've seen are, nice photos. Maybe photos are in HD. I do like color. And then there's also a lot of use on Canvas with templates that are related to whatever topic it is you're focusing on. And also not just on Canva, but you can Google, Google Slides templates free, PowerPoint templates free, and you can find some. Now, a well-designed aid, it's going to signal that the speaker is prepared, the speaker is professional, and so it's nice to kind of take some time to make sure that your PowerPoint, your slides, they look nice. Research again, it's going to tell us the audience members should be able to process your message within 3 seconds. That is so fast. So research says we like looking at words, we like looking at pictures, but we also like looking at it pretty quickly. So every time we come to a new slide, within 3 seconds, we should be able to absorb the main message there. I think that's intense. So here's some ways to kind of keep the design simple. And first, you want to follow the 6 by 6 rule. So what that means, and I'm going to go back to the last slide, You want 6 words going down and then 6 words going across. No more than that. Do I always follow it? No, but I try to. And so let's look. We have well-designed aids signal that the. We got 6 words in that first line. Perfect. Speaker is prepared and professional. Looks good to me. I know we got some long words there, but that's 5 words. Research tells us that audience members, good, should be able to process the message. We got 7 words on that second to last line, but it's still okay. And then in the slides within 3 seconds, 6 words. This slide is a solid, accessible slide. So try to stick to that 6x6 rule. We just don't want too much information. Now it's good to keep the word text in active verb form as you can have that consistency throughout. You want to avoid clutter. You don't want too much stuff happening that will distract your audience, maybe even distract you. And then you want to create concise titles. See how this one says keep the design simple and then I have a page number from a different book. It just kind of helps to alert the audience what it is we're focusing on, but it's not too detailed. All right, take a deep breath with me. I'm going to show you a slide and I want you to pause and think, what are my initial thoughts here? What do you think when you see this? There are some different colors here that we're not used to seeing in this presentation aid. And so you can see there's this like awkward yellow, there's this awkward empty black square that's happening here. So you got to think first off, you want to apply the same design decision for all of the slides. So you can see so far, and I'm going to go back to this one, we've had this kind of like light blue paint in a sense, but it's been light blue, light white the entire time. And now all of a sudden it's yellow. It's not very friendly. So you want to keep the same color. You want to keep the same font. Check out the title up there. That's in Comic Sans. You want to make sure that's the same as all the other previous ones. Even the capitalization. Check out how designing and aids are both capitalized, but not presentation and not rules. We want to be sure that the styling is the same, the page layout, even if you have logos in the corner, it's just got to look uniform, right? Stay away from this type of awkwardness. It hurts the eyes. It's going to distract your audience in a negative way too. That's better. So I want you to use color. Now, skillful use of color, you want to draw attention to key points. You can influence the mood of the presentation, making things easier to see. I'm not telling you not to use yellow because of the last slide, but this entire slide deck, we haven't had any yellow. Now, poor color combinations, it might set the wrong mood and it might make it unreadable too. So just be aware of what color choices you're making and that you can, I want you to have fun with it, but we still gotta be able to read it and interpret it, right? So here's some principles, and this is one of my last slides for you today. You want to concentrate on presenting one major idea per visual aid. So each slide, we're focusing like on one thing. We want to make sure that we're giving it the attention it deserves. You want to apply the same design decision consistently. So we don't want that awkward yellow and black square things. You want it to be, blue and white square things. You want to make sure that you use type that's large enough for our audience. I know that we typically write in 12-point font, but what size fonts do you think people typically use for PowerPoints? It's pretty amazing because I think they use about 18 or 20. And so it's like it's got to be a lot larger than what we're used to at 12. You want to use color and try to have fun with it, highlight those key ideas, enhance readability, and then make sure your colors contrast rather than clash. Now, I did already kind of mention this a little bit, but there is a lot of resources out there of templates that can match your topic. So if you're doing a speech on Italy, I really encourage you to have fun and think, okay, I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to type in, Google Slides Italy PowerPoint or Google Slides Italy template, right? Now be careful because some of them, they do cost money. So if you search around a little bit, you can find a free one. And I also want to leave this moment to remind you that I'm here to help you in any way with your outline, with your presentation aids. And so if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm here to help you. I know it's difficult sometimes online, but I want you to know that I'm just a simple email or message away. You're doing great, and I can't wait to see your presentation aids, and I can't wait to see how you have fun with color in your designs. Awesome. I hope you have a good day. I'll see you later.